Allow me to introduce my favorite player I've covered on Stunted Growth thus far, Tony DeAndre WROTEN Jr., born April 13, 1993. I don't know what it is about raw guards that look like they've never worked out a day in their lives that I'm attracted to, but I must admit, it makes watching the game so intriguing to see players like WROTEN. I hate to compare him to this guy, but in that raw game style of play, he's a lot like Allen Iverson to me. They play nothing alike now. Let's slow that dumb shit down. But AI too looked like he never seen a practice floor he liked. Just raw skill, heart, talent, and a killer will. Makes you think, man, what if this guy really worked to polish his game? Well, if he did, we'd have nothing to talk about. But here we are. Let's get into why Tony WROTEN Jr. is no longer in the league. Salute to self-made RC32, Kendrick Kidd, and John Blaze for their requests. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it! Tony was born in Renton, Washington, and attended Garfield High School, where as a freshman, he was named to the 2009 All-Washington State Class 4A first team, becoming the first ever freshman to do so. He averaged a cool 20.8 points, 8.7 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game. WROTEN was just a man amongst boys. You could just look at the games and tell this kid had what it took to be a star. In his sophomore season, he averaged 17.6 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 4.9 assists per game. Before his junior season, he'd tear his ACL partially and be forced to sit out that season. He returned to form in his senior year, where he was ranked number 19 overall and number 1 in Washington, and invited to the Jordan Brand Classic in a stacked 2011 class. He averaged 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists per game to finish the year. Being the man in Washington, it was only right that he stay home and join a solid Washington Huskies team with an already budding star in Terrence Ross, Abdul Gadi, and CJ Wilcox. Tony stepped on campus and was ready from the jump. His game was flashy, high intensity, elusive, and crafty as they come. He'd have games of 29, 26, 27, 8 assist nights, and was just a tough competitor that brought it on both ends of the floor. Stunt number 1, showing signs / you can't be a lefty. Everyone knows, for the most part, left-handed ballers got a chop, a strap, cannon, flamethrower, whatever you call it in your city. Lefties can shoot it. I don't know what it is, but they just can. In my opinion, it looks weird most times, but that shit goes in. WROTEN was a pretty bad example of that in his time at Washington. He was many things as a freshman, a 16-point per game, 5 rebounds, 3.6 assist player, a freshman of the year, all Pac-12 performer in his first season, becoming the only Washington player ever to do so. He fit right into that team, and he and Ross were the most exciting backcourt to watch. I know it says he only averaged 3 assists, but that don't do him justice, man. Dude could pass. His 3-ball needed major work though. He shot just 16% from 3 and 58% from the foul line. And you know how I feel about bad foul shooters. It just says a lot about a guy that can't shoot free throws. WROTEN was a total letdown from both spots, but did enough as a freshman to declare for the draft. A decision I was excited to see happen, but I knew he just wasn't ready shooting-wise and leadership-wise to do so. Stunt number 2, injury. I know I say this a lot, but man, this guy was really affected by the injury bug beyond belief. I mean, career-definingly affected. WROTEN entered the draft and was the 25th player taken in the first round by the Memphis Grizzlies. This was an amazing accomplishment for him, seeing as he only spent 1 season in college on a team that had 2 other NBA players. I don't think he even expected to be drafted that high as a freshman. In his first season in Memphis, he would see major D-League action, only playing 35 NBA games and averaging 2 points per game. Now you may say he wasn't ready, or the organization didn't know how to use him, or whatever you want to say, and all those opinions have a point of validity, seeing as in hindsight, he wasn't at all productive right out of college. The Grizzlies decided after just 1 season to give up on the investment and traded WROTEN to the Sixers. This was a shocker to me, being in his first year, developing him to only trade him away. But the Sixers is where he would start to really shine, in a place I think he was a great fit. His style fit that city and team history to its core. Remember, Philly knows about flashy, raw talent and appreciates it. Roten came into Philly and shined right away. In his first game, he had a triple-double against the Rockets with 18, 11, and 10, the first ever NBA player to do so in his first game. He had a solid first season, averaging a solid 13 points per game and 3 assists in just 24 minutes per game. His second season in Philly is where he really started shining. He averaged career highs of 16 points per game, 5.2 assists, and was shooting a career high from 3. Although we'll get into that next. But Tony would only play 30 games that season because of a partially torn ACL in his right knee. And this is where I say that injury was very significant. He was playing great for Philly and looked like their future before the injury. As soon as he was healthy enough and had spent some time in the D-League recovering, they traded him to the Knicks, in which he never played for the team, then was traded back to the Grizzlies again, where he was later waived. Stunt number 3, Brick House. I don't want to sound biased and blame these organizations for Tony's shortcomings because he did have great ones, like the fact he's never been a great shooter. Not in high school, not in college, and definitely not in the league. That is the biggest reason for most players not becoming what they're projected. They just can't shoot, and I will never get that. How you can't shoot the rock when that's your daily job? In a little over 4 seasons in the league, Roten is a career 64% free throw shooter with lows of 54, career 23% from 3 with lows of 17%, and a career 41% from the field with lows of 33. That's horrible, my guy. Not like you were a great enough passer. Well, I think he could pass his ass off, it just didn't show. But your stats don't say you are at 3 assists per game for your career, not to have a jump shot. Make matters worse, we saw this coming. He shot horribly at Washington as well. Roten would see major D-League and overseas time to conclude his career, and it's sad this player didn't get to see his full potential. Some things he could control, like working on his game, and some things weren't in his control, like the teams giving up on him, injury, and the game just leaving him behind. All in all, I loved watching him play, man, and I wish him the best. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. I'm out.